Narrator presents Pikes Peak. On the 23rd of November, 1806, Lieutenant Zebulon Pike discovered the majestic mountain peak which was later to bear his name. Handicapped by cold weather and the lack of provisions, he and his party failed in their attempt to climb the Great Peak, as he named it, and Pike expressed the opinion that the mountain would never be scaled by mortal man. Today, thousands of visitors ascend Pikes Peak every summer, either by cog railway or the spacious two-way auto highway. It is the only peak in the world whose summit can be reached both by rail and by auto. It rises 14,110 feet above sea level, and on a clear day, territory as far distant as Kansas, Wyoming, and New Mexico is visible, as well as a vast continental divide to the west. The peak, while not the highest of Colorado's towering Rockies, is the most famous in America. During World War II, it was common practice of the Army Air Forces to don oxygen masks at an elevation of 10,000 feet. The summit of Pikes Peak is approximately 4,000 feet higher, accounting for the lightheaded feeling experienced by most visitors. Contrary to common belief, water will boil on the peak, but due to lower air pressure, it boils at a lower temperature, thus increasing the normal cooking time. Throughout the summer months, snow falls on the peak on an average of once a week, and the average daily temperature is 42 degrees above zero. The summer temperature ranging from 10 to 65 degrees. The geologic history of Pikes Peak is a glacial one. At one time, there were glaciers in the higher Rockies as far south as New Mexico, and there is much evidence of glacial cutting on Pikes Peak. While the age of glaciers is long past, Pikes Peak continues to be shaped by natural forces. Erosion, frost, and streams carve the lower slopes, but the summit itself is acted upon only by frost, which splits the great granite boulders apart. The peak's man-made history is no less spectacular. The Indians believed it was created by the Great Spirit, and they called it the Great White Mountain. It marked the northwest boundary of the travels of the Spaniards in the New World. Dr. Edwin James, botanist and historian with the Long's expedition, made the first recorded ascent of the peak 14 years after its discovery. During the gold rush of 1859, the entire Rocky Mountain region was known as the Pikes Peak country, and Pikes Peak or bust became the motto of hordes of gold seekers. One story of the time assured eager prospectors that all one had to do to make a fortune was to slide down Pikes Peak on a heavy sled-like contrivance which would slice off long shavings of solid gold. Not until 1888 was a stage road completed to the summit of Pikes Peak. Many were eager to dare the hazardous horse and carriage journey which required 3 days. 1891 saw the construction of the cog railway, the first train of tilted cars making the trip in June of that year. Then in July 1913, a racing driver made the first successful automobile ascent. His course followed the northern slopes of the peak over what remained of the old carriage road, which had fallen into disuse after the construction of the cog line. In a second-hand car stripped to the chassis, the tires wrapped with rope to prevent their being cut on the jagged rocks. The driver was forced at times to build his own bridges and cut trees from his path. Yet he completed his amazing trip in 3 hours and 22 minutes. The Pikes Peak Auto Highway was built in 1916, certain portions of the road costing $20,000 and more per construction mile. Modern racing drivers have made the annual Labor Day race to the summit a world classic, with many foreign nations entering cars and drivers. Starting in the flats just above Crystal Creek Dam, the 12.5-mile course follows a thrilling series of curves and hairpin turns. From the natural grandstand at milepost 16, it is possible to view the entire course, below and including the switchbacks. Since 1922, the Ataman Club has made the long, cold winter hike to the summit to present its fireworks display on New Year's Eve. This beautiful spectacle has been broadcast coast to coast and is nationally famous. But then everything about this majestic mountain peak is famous. The Indians regarded its shining beauty with reverential wonder. Pike wrote of it with awed admiration, and to the pioneers it symbolized the hopes and promises of America's last frontier. Millions of people who have never seen it know its familiar contours, and millions more have traversed its rugged slopes. The country below timberline is rich in spruce, aspen, and pine, and in summer there are bluebells and yellow butterweed, forget-me-nots, mountain pinks, and numerous other wild and alpine flowers. At timberline, gnarled pines stand in stripped and twisted beauty, while at the snow's edge grow dog-tooth violets, marsh marigolds, and the alpine primrose. Wild life includes pipits and purple finches among the birds, conies and marmots from the animal kingdom. And from the summit itself, the visitor looks out upon a panorama of unsurpassed grandeur, the massive ranges of the Rocky Mountains to the west, limitless sky above, and the never-ending prairie to the east. It is at this moment that he knows why Pikes Peak has been christened America's most famous mountain.